All right, it's time to oil and grease your spinning reels and your bait casting reels. And guys, I'm gonna walk you through kind of in depth how to do it, where to put your oil, where to put your grease, taking apart your reel bodies. We're gonna be doing your pinion gears, your main drive gears, and any other place you would think of where you need to put grease and oil. We're gonna start off with your spinning reels, and then we're gonna switch over and we're gonna end with the bait casters. All right, let's go. All right, the first thing you can do is remove the drag cap from your spool. And when you take this off, you might already locate the issue, which a lot of times line will get caught up underneath your spool and it will kind of bunch up. As you can see this, when I spin it real fast, this spindle goes up and down. And sometimes line can get caught under there and it bunches up, creating that tightness feeling. Obviously, if you have line there, go ahead and cut that out. And what we're gonna do is place a little grease right where that spindle goes up and down. Place just one drop or so. I like using the Lucas fishing reel oil, this stuff right here. It's got a nice applicator top and I've just been using it for a long time and it's worked incredibly well. So I'll throw the link to all the grease and oil I use in the description below. So once you put the oil in there, go ahead and spin it. Next we're gonna do is oil your bail arm connections right here. So I go ahead and put one drop of oil in each connection, let that seep in and kind of move this back and forth. You can go ahead and put this back on. Quick note here, being that you took your drag cap off, make sure you reset your drag before you go out fishing again. Next, I'm going to show you a place that oftentimes gets overlooked in the lubrication process in your spinning reel, which is your line roller right here. So this is spinning, so your line doesn't create friction against metal, and that spins around and there's a bearing in there. So we're going to put one drop of oil in there and spin that around the best you can. All right, I got technically three more places you're gonna put this oil to lubricate your spinning reel on kind of the basic maintenance approach. All right, next one is also overlooked. It's your little handle right here. So go ahead, there's some bearings in there. Just put one drop of oil and let that spin around. And I can already tell it's spinning a little bit faster. All right, next you're gonna wanna remove the, got it. Next you're gonna wanna remove the entire handle. And you do that by simply unscrewing this side here. It's kind of a long screw. There are some bearings on the inside of here, so what you're gonna do is take one drop of oil, not in the middle, but on the outside where the bearings are, that's where you're gonna drop that in. So I'll drop in one, kind of spin that around a little bit, spin it over, and then drop another one drop in there. Also spin that around, and go and put your handles back on. I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna stick it on the right side. I can already tell this feels a ton more smooth than when I started, but we're not done. I'm gonna take you to the more advanced. We're gonna open up the reel body. I'm gonna show you what's inside and show you where to put your grease. So I know I just told you to put the handle back on, but in order to take that cap off, you're gonna need to remove that again. Only take a second. And now you're gonna need a screwdriver. This takes a flathead or a Phillips, so I'm gonna grab one of those. It's gonna be pretty tiny. This guy would do the trick. I have screws here, here, and here, so I'm gonna undo those. Something to note here, when you're taking off those screws, now mine, all three of these screws are the same, but in some reels, they're gonna be different lengths. And you're going to notice those whenever you're taking those out. Maybe snap a picture or place them somewhere on your workbench so you know what hole they go in when you're putting this all back together. Now what I'm going to do is kind of pop the cap. It's going to come right off. You might have to kind of manipulate how your bail arm is. There you go, got the inside. All right, I can already tell this needs some grease because I took apart one that is fairly new just a minute ago, this guy, and it was full of grease. And this is full of nothing. So let me show you what you're gonna need to do with this guy. All right, what I'm looking at here, looks like you got your main drive gear, you have a worm gear, looks up in here, you got a pinion gear. And essentially what you're gonna wanna do is grease on the gears where you see metal on metal. So on this Lew's Xfinity speed stick, I'm gonna be greasing right down here. I'm gonna be greasing under here. I'm gonna spin it around. I'm gonna grease back in there. And I'm gonna grease this pin right here that slides up and down so it continues to slide nicely. The grease I like to use is this pen. It's a precision reel grease made for this. So let's go ahead and open this up. Sometimes you get this and there's an applicator, but there's not this time, not a big deal. So I'm just gonna kind of put it on with the end of my screwdriver here. We're not really gonna touch it, just gonna drop it in there. So got a little bit there. And a couple places I wanna put this. I'm gonna put it back in there on that pinion. Shove it in there, nice. Pick up a little bit more. Put it on the underside of here. So when I spin that around, it's all gonna connect to the rest of the gears. Put a little more. I'm gonna slide some up and down right there. That makes a nice smooth slide back and forth as the spindle goes up and down. And then if I can get some, I'm gonna shove some down in this gear. Right down there. Kind of push it down there some more. what I like to do is kind of spin that around and get those moving. You should see all your gears start to go bluish, and that's what you want when the metal is on metal, on all those kind of look blue. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but it's definitely changing. I can tell that it's super smooth. Definitely changed the dynamic of the spinning reel. Now, something to note here, I've watched some videos. I mean, guys just like pack it in there. And I believe that if you just pack it in there and put a little bit of grease goes a long way. And especially if you do this every once in a while, there's no need to put an incredible amount of grease in there. Over time, it's just going to gum up. So just put enough in there to coat the metal and you'll be good to go, at least for another full season, in my opinion. All right, now that we finish up our spinning reel, these things are smooth as butter. Let's go ahead and move over to the Baitcaster and do the same. All right, the first thing I highly recommend doing is taping down your line or removing your line completely. This is also a great time to oil and grease is whenever you're changing out your line, so it just doesn't get in the way. I'm gonna start with the easy places, then we're gonna dive into the gearing of this bad boy and grease the main drive and the pinion gear. So let's grab your oil and let's go ahead and apply 1 drop of oil to your Baitcaster push button clutch. So I'm gonna put 1 right in there and 1 on the other side, and go ahead and work that in. Next, put 1 drop of oil on the handles, 1 right there, spin it in, 1 right there, go ahead and spin that in. Next, I'm gonna put 1 drop of oil on the slide right here. There we go. Go ahead and work that over the slide. All right, next you're gonna see right in there, you got your worm gear. Now, if you're in a pinch, you could use the oil. However, when I'm working with gears, I like to use grease. So we're gonna just take a little bit of your pen grease, put a little dab on the end of your screwdriver, like so. And go ahead and stick it right there along the worm gear. Gonna spread it out and go ahead and just let that slide go back and forth. Our next what we're gonna do is remove the side plate, and you can see at the bottom it says open and close. Go and open it up. Some of these will pop completely off. This one's kind of static and attached. And what you want to do is on the inside of that slide plate, you'll see a bearing. So go ahead and put 1 drop of oil on the outside of the bearing. And if you want to, you can go ahead and put 1 drop of oil in the middle in here. Not that it's oiling the bearing. However, whenever you do take out your spool, which I'll go ahead and do right now, you will see that this right here is going to go into the hole, and so you can either grease this or you can grease inside the hole, 6 or 1/2 dozen the other. So what you're also going to do is go ahead and put 1 drop of oil down in that hole. I'm going to drop that in there, boom, and then go ahead and reassemble. Put that back in, 1 over, snap that back in place. Good to go. Now you put oil in the bearing over here, so let's go over to the bearing over here on your tensioner knob. So go ahead and take that off. Now that that's off, got a bearing right there. So put 1 drop of oil in there. Put the tensioner knob back on. All right. Oh yeah. I can already feel the difference on that. Now those are the easy parts on the outside. Now comes the hard part, which is getting into your main drive gear that's in here and your pinion gear that's also in there. And so before you take this all off, and you might have to take this off, but you might notice right down here there's a little port, a little hole. Now you might be thinking, hey, that's a lubrication port. Well, it is not. Do not shove oil in there. It's going to thin out your grease that is in there, and it's going to make an absolute mess. This is a drain hole. However, now this is a Shimano SLX, so we're gonna have to take this one apart. But if you happen to have a loose bait casting reel, if you look on the bottom side, there's actually a lubrication port right here. I'm gonna open it up and show you what it looks like. Basically, take your screwdriver, unscrew that. There you go. That's what that looks like. But what that does, it gives you easy access, I don't know if you can see that really well, to that main drive gear in there. And you have easy access to that main drive gear. What you want to do is take a little bit of grease and go and apply it to that main drive gear, move it a little bit, and keep applying a little bit of grease. Move it, a little bit of grease. Don't pack it in there. You don't need a ton. Man, if you have one of these, go ahead and shove this back on, put the screw back in, and you, my friend, you just save yourself a lot of time and a lot of heartache if you have a loose reel that has one of these ports. If you have one of these, we actually have to take this all apart because there's no way to access that main gear drive. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so go ahead and remind you to do this, because if you're doing this over some type of carpet or a hard surface, there's some really tiny pieces in here. If they were to fall out, you could bounce away, you would never find them again, or land in a carpet and you never find them again. So let's go ahead and take this apart. You need a small screwdriver. Go ahead and take the screwdriver off this cap, right? Now, what you'll want to do as you're taking pieces off of your reel body is place them in order. So that was the first thing that came off, second thing that came off. Now, in order to get this nut off, this is where you're going to need your 10 millimeter wrench. Let's go ahead and pop this off. Now, this is where you want to kind of apply pressure because some of these are spring loaded. So as I'm taking this handle off, I'm putting pressure on the star drag to keep that down because there's a bunch of springs in there. All right, let's take this off. Now, this is going to be your clicker in here. I'm going to see if I can peel this off for you. If you take that off, you'll see the bottom of this has a bunch of different, I don't know if you can tell, has a bunch of different knobs on the outside. And that's whenever you turn your star drag, it clicks on that little piece of metal, and that little piece, tiny piece of metal has a spring under it. So when you're taking this off, don't let this explode everywhere. So, and it has a spring underneath of it. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to leave that in one piece. Put my star drag down there. All right, next I got a spring. Take that off. Boom. Take this aluminum nut off. Now, careful when you take this off. Take a look on the bottom side. Sometimes, yep, there's a washer kind of stuck in there. So I'm going to put the washer back on and put this down. Now, there's a variety of washers. There's 3 on this SLX. I'm going to take them all off together, and they're not made of the same type of metal. So I'm going to place those 3 on top of each other. So when I do grab them again, I just put them all together. And so, all right, now you have everything off here. Now what you're going to want to do, take your screwdriver and go ahead and take off. For this one in particular, I have 1, 2 screws, and on the inside, 3, 4 I have to take off. Now, I know, because I've done this before, these 2 are the same thread and the same size. However, these are different threads and different lengths. And so just keep a note on, kind of in your mind, when you take those off, which ones go back in, because they're not all the same thread, they're not all the same length. So let's go ahead and take those off. That's the short one, which is on the outside. The longer one, you can kind of tell there's not a lot of room for the screw to go in here. So the long one's going to come out of here. Let's go ahead and take that out. And as you can see, it is longer than the first one that I took out. All right, now keep a little pressure on this. And when you pull this off, don't pull it off sideways. Keep this pointing up. Slowly kind of pull that off. I like it. Place that off to the side. Keep this part up. These springs, all these little pieces, if you turn it over, a lot of these pieces will fall out. And so looking at the side here, this is where I'm going to grease. I'm going to grease the main drive gear, which will by default grease the pinion gear. And then there's one more gear down here I want to put a little grease on. And so basically I need to grease 2 places. Kind of a good rule of thumb is you don't need to put a ton on this. Probably every ½ inch or so. I'll kind of place some grease. 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 And there we go. All right, so I like that one. Now, a little bit of grease down here, and I don't know if you can see that, but put some in there, moving around a little bit. All right, so I got all the places that I want to grease in here. You can move these around a little bit if you like. You don't want to pack it in there really bad. So I like that. All right, next what I want to do is slowly put this all back together, and that should go in really nicely. And I do remember for my outside screws, it was these guys. Boom. Now the long one is going to go to the inside. That. The short one to the outside. Alright, now before we move on, let's go ahead and twist this, make sure that it is in fact moving correctly in there. That's exactly what you want to see. Now you start reassembling it in the order which you took it off. So really quick, I'll just throw these on there. My 3 washers in the order of which they came off. I like it. My aluminum nut. This should go on super smooth, so don't force it. Just keep on moving it back until you find the right thread. Now, I just put my finger on the top of this, kind of hold it in place. There you go. I like it. Tight enough. Put the spring on top, like so. And put your star drag, like so. Make sure these pieces don't pop off. Go put your handle, like that. Your 10 millimeter nut on the top. Alright, don't over tighten it there. Good. Then take your last cap. And this cap is not just going to fit on perfectly, your nut has to be positioned correctly as well. And so sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. Looks like, let me see. Nope, didn't get lucky. So I'm going to adjust this just a tiny bit to make sure this will line up with the nut and kind of sit on the cap. There we go. Now it's sitting flush. You can go ahead and put your screw in there. Hey guys, this video was helpful. I have hundreds of others just like it. Hit that sub. I'll keep them coming. Thanks for watching.